ourselves as we are, and as we go through this change, this hormonal change, right? And also learn techniques to strengthen our gut and our midriff, right? As our hormones change, especially adrenaline changes, and we tend to collect a lot of extra extra baggage around the belly, which is quite hard to budge. So we will work that, but before that we've got to readdress our approach towards our bodies and our midriff, right? Now, why is yoga so good for perimenopause, right? So when we go through perimenopause, there are three aspects of our life that get impacted quite considerably. One is the physical body, where we're experiencing symptoms. One is the emotional body, right? What the anger and the anxiety and the stress that we feel. And also the cognition, right? The memory, as well as the thought process, all of that starts to change. And if you look at it, there's a beautiful alignment between yoga and perimenopause symptoms, because what does yoga do? Yoga means a union of breath, body and mind, right? So the body, asanas work on the symptoms, the breath can manage the emotions and the hot flushes, and the meditation manages the mind, keeps the brain active, keeps those neuronal pathways going. So this beautiful connection of why yoga works with perimenopause, right? And we want to target this before we get into the throes of menopause. Whether we do HRT or not is another question. This is an additional supplement for us. So the other thing about the physical aspects of how we change through perimenopause is that it's not just about one particular, if you've got a big fat belly, it's not just about the belly, it's about everything. We've got to look at every aspect of it. So before we get into asana practice, let's work towards, how do we feel about how our bodies are changing, right? Why is self-love and self-body image important to us, right? There are research has shown that when we kind of love ourselves first, only if our cups are full, then we can love others, right? If we have that deep set irritation and hatred towards ourselves, right, or repulsion when we look at ourselves in the mirror, then that kind of starts to permeate through in the way we interact with other people. And the energy levels as well. If we give ourselves that self-care, we've got a lot of energy within us, then of course we are more patient with our loved ones, we can look after them better. So there is that twofold effect when we fill our cup. Then self-love also helps us towards positive behavior, right? So we exercise because we love our bodies, not because we hate our shape and our body, right? We make better decisions and choices, right? Life is about choices, right? And as we get older, I'm sure you will all agree that what we were doing when we were in our 20s and 30s doesn't work for us now. So decisions and better choices to how we live our life and our lifestyle, right? And it sets us up for self-compassion, because we are always like the mind is the inherent nature of the mind is to bring negative thoughts into the mind, right? It's a protection mechanism. There's a lot of research gone into why we're always thinking negative thoughts, and that's because we are trying to protect ourselves, right? When we were in the caveman in the jungle, we're always looking at things with suspicion because we want to survive, and that has come into the day-to-day world. So we want to be kind and compassionate towards ourselves, not constantly beating ourselves up, and that is what self-love brings us, right? And it also has a beautiful sort of chemical reaction and connection into the brain as to it creates actual chemical change when we love ourselves and we bring positivity into our life, right? So the stress levels come down, right? And the chemical structure of our internal terrain changes. And of course, the most important thing is this relationship with ourselves we have from the time we have cognition to the time we die. So it's one relationship that is steadfast, the relationship with ourselves. So it's very important for us to build that positivity so that we can work towards a stronger and a healthier and a happier us, right? Especially through perimenopause. So coming down to the topic of today is samskaras in the belly, right? In the yogic tradition, in the Hindu tradition, some samskaras have got a very, very deep meaning. But in the top level, you could sort of compare samskaras to unconscious bias, right? Deep ingrained thoughts and belief systems that have been with us from the time we were born because of various reasons. It's because of the way we were raised, it's because of what our parents and our family went through. You know, we know that trauma, as an example, gets ingrained into the DNA and comes to us as we are babies, right? So what our parents experienced can also affect us when we are growing, older. We've seen this. There's a lot of research gone into that. Like people who from war-hit countries, their children have stress and PTSD, right? So all of these are ancient yogis have identified this as samskaras. So how do samskaras affect the way we look at ourselves in the mirror, right? You have been brainwashed, right? Or we have been brainwashed from when we were little as to you have to look a certain way to be considered beautiful, right? We've gone through this, skinny models and attractiveness and youth and, all of that sort of stuff without going too much into detail. Now imagine you're a little girl or a little person sitting in front of a TV and looking at something, and a large person comes on screen, right? Whatever the person, the adult around you has said at that time, whether it's good or bad, makes that connection into your head, right? And that is what I mean, how sanskara is connected to the way we portray or we look at ourselves, perceive ourselves, right? Now that little person sitting and watching that big person on TV, if there's a positive comment made about it, then you have a positive image built in. If it's a negative comment made about it, the negative image builds in, and that collects over time through experience. So now when you look at yourself in the mirror and you're changing shape, you're getting old, in the back you have all of this other stuff going on. So how can we work towards accepting all of what is going on, right? Especially in today's day of social media and all of that. The other thing that really impacts the way we feel and our actual appearance and structure is our habits. 40% of what we do in our day is habits, right? So when we get up in the morning, what is the first thing we do? That's a habit, right? How does it set us up for the rest of the day, right? So habits are something that really impact the way we feel, the lifestyle we lead, and hang on one second, the way we go into autopilot, right? We move from one thing to another. We might not even realize it's a habit. So can we pause and take a moment? So I've got an exercise for you to do after this class, and I'll share a document with you. But for now, I want you to, if you have a pen and paper, hello there, Pooja and Galaxy and Neetatai. If you've got a pen and paper, I want you to just make a little note. We'll just do one aspect of this exercise. The rest of it is in the document I'll share with you. Just write down one thing that you do as soon as you wake up in the morning. What is it that you do? Right? If you don't have a pen and paper, that's completely fine. If you just write down what is the one thing you do first thing in the morning. Right? You probably go to the toilet, so maybe after that. Now let's assume that it is something like you're drinking coffee, okay? So as soon as you wake up, you need that hot drink of coffee, right? Now you've got your body that has got all of the food digested, whatever else, and you're flushing down coffee in the morning, right? And perhaps that is not something you want to do and you want to change. You've read up about it and you want to change that habit a little bit, alter that habit. Now here is a beautiful concept called habit stacking. Have any of you heard of it? Heard of what habit stacking is? Perfect. I'm getting a couple of nods. Right? So it means that you take another habit and you attach it to the current habit that you're doing. Okay? So first thing in the morning you get up. The thing that I have done, I used to do the same thing when I was in the UK. I would get up and have a cup of tea as start, and then I decided actually that is way too much tea that I'm drinking. And the first thing in the morning, and I did a bit of research, and Ayurveda also trains that first thing in the morning you need to drink some hot water, warm water, because it flushes off the toxins, right? It aids digestion, it purifies the skin, it hydrates the body. I mean, the advantages are numerous. So to be able to have that habit in your life, you habit stack. So you take something you want to do and you add it to the habit that you're currently doing. And then you gradually can drop the old habit and keep up with the new habit, right? This is absolutely mind-bogglingly simple, but it works. So that's one thing that you can start doing. The other concept is a keystone habit. A keystone habit is one that has a rippling effect for you in the day. Hopefully a positive effect, but if it's not a habit that serves you, then it might not have a positive effect, right? So for me, a keystone habit is that thing, getting up in the morning, having my 2 cups of water, sitting down and contemplating, taking a few moments. Another keystone habit for me is in the evening before I go to bed, I put out all my yoga clothes because I know I have to get up in the morning and teach class. So that sort of sets an intention and sets the ball rolling for me in the day, right? So can you identify a couple of keystone habits that you already do or that you might like to include gradually, right? And this is to do, of course, with managing your midriff, but also general health and well-being. And coming back to habits, the Ayurvedic equivalent or even more powerful than a habit is something called dinacharya, right? So it's activities you do during the day. And of course, dinacharya, Ayurveda has got heaps of them. Just as a little sample, you get up, you drink water without brushing your teeth, and I'll tell you the reason for that. You clean your tongue, scrape your tongue, you do oil pulling, you do nasal cleansing, you do Agni Kriya, which is something we'll do and we do in our yoga classes. So there are heaps, but can you choose 2 simple things that we will go through now? One is drinking water in the morning, and I keep repeating this. First thing in the morning without brushing your teeth. Now, hopefully you've brushed your teeth the night before, so your mouth's not going to be repulsive. But why do you drink water in the morning without brushing your teeth? Because the food that your body is an absolutely stunningly intelligent being. Because of the food that you've eaten, the mouth generates bacteria that digests that food, right? So drinking water takes that bacteria into your gut and it helps and heals the gut, right? This is a beautiful habit that I learned from my mom. She used to do it. And in fact, I always think of her when I'm standing and drinking my warm water in the morning. So it's a beautiful connection for me. But it's a habit that has really, really helped me. And if you look at it, it's got heaps of benefits, right? As I already said, it hydrates the body. It keeps the gut and the bowel movement regular. And it's got many, many more. If you got my newsletter, I had it in there. So that's one habit. And as soon as you've done that, if you've got your yoga practice, you can do Agni Kriya, which is what we'll do. Otherwise, you just, even if you're not practicing yoga, drink your warm water and practice Agni Kriya. So Agni Kriya is a yoga technique or an Ayurveda technique, which is flapping of the stomach, right? So it replicates the peristaltic movement of the stomach. When you eat something, your stomach slowly moves. You don't realize it's moving. It slowly moves to release food particles and move food particles through the stomach and through the intestines, right? And so the yogis learned this, and that's what we do when we do our Agni Kriya, which I'll show you in a minute, right? So why do we do this? We're doing this to release food particles that are stuck to the intestine, especially the undigested fatty particles, right? And that, according to Ayurveda, it's known as Ama, is the root cause of disease. right? So we want to get rid of that, which is why they always say don't eat meat late in the night, right? Eat your meats in the daytime so that it gets digested by the time you sleep. Because when we're sleeping, the body doesn't want to sit and digest food, correct? It wants to be calm. You want your energy to be nice and relaxed. So you can start doing that as a habit or a dinacharya in your routine, right? So we'll get to our yoga practice very soon. So the drinking of warm water is called ushapan. Yeah, you could do it without gargling your mouth. As soon as you get up, warm water, and you can drink anything from 2 to 3 cups, 4 cups, depending on how you feel. Sit down and sip the first couple of sips, and then you can sort of just flush the rest of it. Now the food that we eat also plays a very important part, right? Now, one thing that most health advisors or fitness experts will advise you is to count your calories. To burn off that fat in your midriff, you need to count your calories. And okay, maybe you want to count them, that's up to you. But I've started counting my protein, right? My sister's here with me, she's a dietitian. Protein is what we need to build muscle as we're getting through perimenopause. So you need to count the amount of protein that you're eating so that you're eating enough for your daily consumption. And you might know this already, you need to eat anything from 1.2 to 1.7 grams per your body weight, per kg of your body weight, right? So I've just made that really simple for me. I eat 1.5 grams per my body weight per kg. So I have to eat about 78 grams of protein. So if you know that, then you can approximately work out, okay, I can eat 2 eggs in the morning or afternoon. I can eat so much chicken at lunchtime. If you're vegetarian, you can eat something else at lunchtime. So that's your average intake in the day. That is one very important thing that you need to do as you're getting older, to build protein. No point in just doing weights and hatha yoga. You've got to add protein into your diet, whether it's plant-based or it's meat. Yeah, the second thing is to eat food that is nourishing to your body. Of course, it's good to indulge, but whatever you're putting in your mouth, unfortunately, that's the way we can manage perimenopause. You've got to manage what you're eating. Is this going to be nourishing? Has it got good prana, good energy? Then I'll enjoy it. Of course, you can go out and have fun with friends and eat and party, but moderation. And the one thing that has really made a big impact for me, and might be quite hard for people who work late or eat with the family late, is to eat, for me it's made a big difference, is to eat a light meal, especially soups, for the last meal of the day, right? So I try and have my soup or a light kind of food at sundown, right? So when I get up in the morning, I feel that difference in energy. Of course, the days that I don't, I feel a little bit more sluggish, but I'm really completely aware of how my body feels. That's why it makes a big impact for me. You can add this in slowly. Make sure that you're eating early enough, at least 3 hours before you go to bed, and try changing your evening meal to a nice soup. Now, it doesn't have to be a liquid cleansing soup. It can be like a khichdi dal type or a chicken broth, like a brothy kind of soup, especially in the winter months, and lighter soups in the summer months. They can be nourishing. You get up in the morning with feeling complete, you feel light, and you feel completely energetic, right? So that's one thing that's really worked for me, and that's one thing you can definitely try out. So coming to that, let's talk about the real thing we're here for, is asana practice, right? So I know that some of you take my class already. The one thing that makes a big difference to how our midriff and our tummies feel is our posture, right? When we're kind of sluggish and in a bad posture with our shoulders humped, slouched, this kind of tends to hang out, right? But when we tuck the tailbone in and reach up, relax the shoulders, and this really beautiful technique is to have, imagine there's a little ball at the top of your head, just a couple of millimeters away from you, and you're reaching up from the top of the head. Why don't you guys do that with me? So stand tall. I can't see some of you, but stand tall, arms by the side. tuck the tailbone in and reach up like you're trying to touch this little ball that's hanging over here. Spread your toes, press your feet into the mat or the ground. And as you reach up, you'll notice your tummy engaging. You'll notice a beautiful engagement in your tummy, and that is the right amount of engagement of those muscles. So if you can stand in Tadasana, this is Tadasana. When we were learning yoga, my teacher would always tell me, if you can stand in Tadasana every day, comfortably, then you know that your back is strong, your core is nice and strong, right? So if you stand here like this for 5 minutes, you will start to notice things start to hurt. And that gives you an indication of how strong your core is. In progression of Tadasana, if you've got a wall against you, you can do this. So you stand against the wall. I hope that you can see me. Your heels are touching the mat. You can do this anytime, anywhere, at your workplace, when you're brushing your teeth. Right, you're going to stand and try and flatten your spine apart from the little curve of the back, right? And try to start squeezing your navel in. And you will start to notice all of this midriff engaging. Take a nice long breath. And as you exhale, squeeze the navel in. And again, nice long breath in. And squeeze the navel in. You're activating the core muscles, right? Wonderful. I just realized I have these bean cans here that I use for my weights. That's funny. Yeah, so those are simple things you can do in the day to activate those deep reaching core muscles without having to get on the mat. Yeah. Now, after you've done your flapping of the stomach in the morning, the other thing you can do is Udyan Bandh, right? Udyan Bandh is something we practice again, where we pull the navel into spine and up, right? So you're going to squeeze, breathe in, squeeze the navel in and up as much as you can, as tightly as you can, right? And we can do this in many different ways, right? But as a start, let me show you. You're going to breathe in through the nose, blow out through the mouth, and then pull the navel in as tightly as you can. Lower belly comes in, pelvic floor comes in, pulling up towards the rib cage, and release. Yeah, so you start to feel the tummy muscles engaging, right? At the end of this class, you might actually feel this part of your belly a little bit more active, right? So do as much as you can. Don't overdo it. Always listen to your body. Wonderful, right? So getting down onto the mat now. I've got 2 cameras going, so here we go.